If there's anybody out there with a heart who can help me, please, I'm crying out from the bottom of my heart. Help me to expose what the police, Chinese, and gang members have done to me and my daughter. Please hear my cry. Answer to my call. Help me. I am an innocent person who have been taken advantage of in the worst ways. The most vicious hate crimes carried out against me. They targeted me for the home that I have lived in for 15 years. And according to some of the police officers, I must be selling drugs in order to live the way I live. And that's all niggas do is sell drugs. One police officer told me that if gang members who were attacking me burned down my home, it was no big deal. I have money. I can go and buy another house somewhere else. I'm a single woman who bought a $750,000 home here in Southern California over 15 years ago, and I've lived there with my only daughter that I raised and put through university. And as Chinese were moving in the area and taking over, one of them who bought a foreclosure property on my street rang my doorbell and introduced herself and told me that she wanted my house and my house was too big for me and I should get out. And I ran her off my property repeatedly. She told her friend about another foreclosure home that was next door to my home, and he bought it. And he was Chinese also, and he rented the property to some drug dealers, federal drug parolee, and illegal aliens, and a bunch of people, including gang members. From the day they moved there, they've been harassing me in my home night and day. This went on for 4 years. The first thing they said to me was that if I ever called the police, I would have trouble on my hands. I put up with it for as long as I could. Eventually, I reached out to the police. Once I started calling the police, the gang members buried pipes along the property line underneath the ground, as some of them are plumbers by trade, and they have attached a device to it that looks like sprinklers. I was told that they're elbows, and also another device that looks like a compressor. And they're satanic worshippers. They sacrifice a bunch of dead animals and they throw it in my yard. And I think they grind up some of the same filth and put it in the pipes and attach a water hose to it. And they sprayed my 4,200 square foot house around the clock, non-stop. They sprayed every plants, every palm trees in my house, and they sprayed it where it went all the way up on the top level. I had a hip roof, and they sprayed the very top roof, and where the substance, whatever they were spraying it with, it was just dripping in all four corners of the house, and I have all of it on videos. And it was non-stop, and they keep changing what they were putting in the pipes underneath the ground. Sometimes they put a powdery substance in it with different colors, and they sprayed the property and they put it in the air conditioning units and have it coming through the house, coming through the vents, and it came in the house, and whatever it was, it almost killed me and my daughter, and I have all of it on camera. They have tortured me, and they told me they're gonna make sure that I see the house and never live there. And I called out for help from the Rancho Cucamonga Police Department repeatedly, begging for help, begging for help. The moment they found out that I'm a black woman and the tenants are Hispanic and the police officers are Hispanics also, they covered up what the Hispanics were doing and turned the table against me to paint a picture of me as if I were the perpetrator. And it was just me alone in my home, dealing with anywhere from 20 to 25 gang members and drug dealers over there, including federal drug parolee that they were hiding there because they didn't want to be deported, so they were hiding up there in the property that the Chinese rented to them. And when I saw the landlord and tried to get help, tried to approach him, he would hide from me. And the same woman who told him about the property, who told me to get out of my house, he kept hiding in her house each time he comes into the neighborhood. Eventually, police asked me to meet them at my home because whatever they were spraying on the property, it was so toxic and burning our bodies, and even took out my hair and my daughter's hair. At one point, they even pointed a gun behind a black piece of cloth from a window and on me, towards me in my backyard, and asked me if I wanted them to show me John Wayne style. They also ordered me to unplug some of my security cameras and told me never to install anymore, and if I install anymore, what they were going to do to me. They sprayed some black substances on some of the cameras, so it disabled some of my cameras so they could not capture anything. Eventually, I had to leave the house and put everything I have in storage, and I continued to paying a mortgage of almost $3,000 a month. While I was paying I paid a total of $7,000 to live in hotels while I was paying my mortgage and could not live in my house. Then they brought in a young 21-year-old from Norwalk and told her to take out restraining order on me, and she used fraud to take out restraining order on me. She never even showed up in court. It was somebody else there, and I had no idea to tell the judge the truth. The judge would not allow me to explain to him what happened and that I am a homeowner who's been under attack. Within no time, a judge gave them restraining order on me without even realizing that the person standing in front of him is not the one who filed the restraining order, and it was fraud, and she had no evidence. It was all fraud carried out against me, a homeowner. And when the judge gave tenants restraining order against me, I could only watch on camera as they sprayed my 4,200 square foot house, and police talked to me like a dog and told dispatch not to take any calls from me. Then one policeman asked me to meet him at the home to look at videos, and when I went there, he said, "This is a setup. I'm taking you somewhere, and if you don't let me take you, I'm gonna beat you." I was in fear for my life. I thought I would never live again, having no family. I reached out to my sister in Pennsylvania and her husband, who heard everything on phone, and my sister begged him to get out of my home and leave me alone. And my sister told him that he was up to no good, and he turned to my sister and he said, "You're right, I'm up to no good. I'm taking her somewhere, and if she doesn't let me take her, I'm gonna beat her." And my sister began to call on the name of Jesus, because that's who we are and that's all we know. And he told me if I didn't let him take me where he wanted to take me, he was going to beat me and he was gonna call for backup also. And I begged him not to beat me, and then he put me in his car and he said, "I have papers for you to sign." He put me in the front seat of his car and he said, "I have papers for you to sign when we get to the station, and if you don't sign it, I'm gonna beat you and you're not gonna leave." He drove to the station. He also wanted my keys. He said he needed my keys to get in my home while I was gone, and I wouldn't give him my keys. And he told me to leave my bag in my purse in the station, and I wouldn't. A few minutes later, he put me in the car and drove me about 30 minutes 30 minutes away from 30 to 45 minutes away from my home, and took me into a building. And while he took me into this building, and a guard came over to him and asked him how come I was not in handcuffs. And he told the guard that in all his many years of career, he has never put anyone in his car without handcuffs, and that I'm a very decent person, I'm a nice person, and I have no problem, I'm not a threat to anything or anyone. And then eventually his phone rang, and so whoever it was asked him to find out from me what was the name of my mortgage company, and how much do I owe on my home. And I asked him who wants to know that and why, and he said I need to know, and if you don't let me know, I'm gonna beat you. So I was forced to tell him the name of my mortgage company and the balance on my home. Later on, what they did, they held me into a mental facility against my will for 9 days without me knowing anything. Why? Because I have no mental problems. I am a professional real estate broker. I have all my faculties, no issues, never had anybody in my family with any mental problem. I am a perfectly normal person. But what I have discovered after I was able to leave the place where they forced me into, and with threats, when I received the paperwork, I found out the premise that they set to carry out this scam to take away my home, that the Chinese kept telling me to get out of it, is that they sat together and they carried out a plot, and part of their plot was to use psychology and science and pure lies, which is what they used to attack innocent people such as myself every day. And the police knows that when they put the stigma and all these labels on you and try to throw you into the so-called system, by dehumanize you and assassinate your character, it's very hard for anyone to help you, and most people don't want to listen to you. So therefore, police made up lies and put on paper that I am 5150. I called 911 every day. I have no job. I was in grave condition, and that I harassed people in the neighborhood. And for 15 years, I lived in the neighborhood. I bought my home brand new for $750,000. I have never been a bother to anyone in my neighborhood. Most people don't even know me, and the ones that do know me, they said, we wish if everybody in the neighborhood was like you. There are people right now who are willing to testify to my character. So these lies fabricated was by the police, the gang members, and their landlord, the Chinese, who wanted the home. And so when they ran me out of my home and I couldn't stay there, the people who are living in my home, eventually living in my home, are Chinese friends of the landlord who wanted my home. Because since I was the only dark-skinned person living on that block, after the Chinese started moving in, they wanted to make sure that I wasn't living there. I live in a 4,200 square foot house, and I was not only was I the only dark-skinned person living on that block, I lived alone, and I live in a fairly large home that was bigger than the ones that they have. So they did not want me there, and they used fraud to assassinate my character and lies and run me away from my home, and police who are forcing me to take on another identity by using threats and intimidating tactics for me to transform me, to say that I have mental problems and I had no jobs and all of those degrading things. As I'm speaking right now, I have a FICO score that is over 100, over 700. I have a FICO score that is about 720. I have never missed a payment on my home or any of my bills. I have no mental problems. I am a perfectly normal person. But in order for them to find a way to take away the home, and because I told them the truth about their conduct and that they were biased and they were respecters of person, as some of the police told me that I had to have been selling drugs to live the way I live. A lot of them told me that one of them told me if the tenants burned down my home, it was no big deal. I have money, I can go elsewhere and build. Even when I tried to call for help, and if I'm repeating some of this, please forgive me. They used a restraining order to make sure I couldn't go to my own home. When I tried to go to my home to even wash my own clothes, I had to run out of my home. The tenants and the Chinese would call the police and told the police that I was harassing them and I wasn't bothering anyone. I pulled my vehicle in my own garage, inside washing my own clothes, but because they told me that they were going to make sure that I see the house and I would never be able to live there, every time I tried to go to my own home, they made up lies and called police. Police then called me and threatened to beat me and arrest me if I did not leave. I had to get in my car and drove fast before they would catch me and beat me. I'm an innocent person taken advantage of, and even now they have that stigma under my name in the county, saying that I have mental problems. This is just a cover up because they don't want anyone to dig deep into what they have done. And I know I'm not the only person who they have done it to. In fact, the Chinese woman who helps to carry out the fraud against me about 7 months ago, her house was invaded by the FBI, broke down her house and went inside her house because they caught her carrying out fraud. And if somebody would just dig deep and help me, they would see that this was a plot and fraud and a vicious hate crime carried out against one single person to take away what I worked so hard for. There is numbers, there is power in numbers. This is what I want to say also. And it was about 20 to 25 of them against me alone. And because it was just me alone, and the police department is predominantly Hispanics, and the tenants were Hispanics, they covered up their behavior. Each time I would call, they never come to my home. They go to the Hispanics. The Hispanics refer to some of them as bro and telling them, we got you back. And then they would drove past my home and I was the one who made the call. And then it turned in the opposite. It turned in lies to give the impression that I am the problem. Sometimes they never showed up at all. They just turned in lies, and because they were aware of what was going on, when I would make a call for help, they just tag team with each other and write up a lying report and turn it in to the police department, and everything they turned in was against me, the victim. But they turned in the paperwork making me out to be the perpetrator while they cover up what the tenants were doing because the tenants are Hispanics, and they cover up for each other. At one point when I called to make a citizen's arrest, one policeman told me, if I give them a ticket, I'm going to have to give you one because in Mexico We do anything we want to do around the clock and nobody can stop us. He bullied me and wrote me a ticket, and all I got from the police department was an apology and the ticket dismissed. And it was the same police officer who told me that he can find ways, he has ways of running me out of my home, and I would never know it's him. And he is also the same one who told me that if they burn down my home, it's no big deal. I have money. I can go somewhere else and build. Another one told me, quote, there is no law that said they cannot use Wicca to kill you. And when I asked people what was the meaning of Wicca, they said it was short for witchcraft, because those are some of the things that the tenants were carrying out against me and my daughter. I have cameras on my home to show how they sprayed the house day and night non-stop. I had my client's file in one of my garage. I had a 4-car garage at the property, and I had to call in a shredding company to shred all my files, because what they did, the pipes that they buried underneath the ground, they tied it in with the pipes in my yard, with the drain pipes in my yard, and they flood my driveway. You would be passing by, and my entire property was saturated, and there was no rain, and it was all the nasty stuff dripping from my roof as they sprayed the house. And a nasty, slimy solution was just dripping from my roof constantly, and in the yard it was pure flies, and the yard was wet, and it was stink. And they made sure they turned it up where all garages are flooded. And in the end, they threw something. It made a sound like a bomb on the wall where my master bathroom is upstairs, and they damaged the plumbing in the wall. I had the loud bang on camera, and when I rushed to the house, the entire downstairs was being flooded from upstairs. And I called the police, and they did nothing. 4th of July weekend, I watched on camera as they shoot the firecracker in my backyard, on my house, in the front yard, and I called the police. They ignored me. One police officer named Amanda Diaz told me that she would not stop until they ran me out of there. She also told the dispatch people not to take any calls from me. So when I keep calling for help, even dispatch people, a lot of them talk to me like dogs, with the exception of a few of them who knew that I was not making up any story and I wasn't lying. Even when they made up lies and put on paper and said that I called 911 every day. I have never made a 911 call since I've been in the area, and a lot of the dispatch people again knows that it's a lie. In the end, the policeman who kidnapped me sent my daughter an email and said he felt so bad because her mother is a remarkable woman, and he felt bad about what he did, because when he kidnapped me and he was taking me away in his car, he had met me for the first time. And the more he talked to me, the more he discovered that I was the opposite of what they said on paper about me. But it was too late. He had to carry out what they told him to do. He even offered to come back and get me the same night. And when I did finally get the paperwork, because he wouldn't tell me where he was taking me and why, he just told me everything that he told me to do. He said if I didn't do it, he would beat me. And when I would not have known what they were doing until I got the paperwork. When he said he would come and get me the same night. Obviously, the reason why he never came back and got me is because of the vicious lies that they put on paper. He gave me his cell phone number and said he was going to keep his phone on all night and keep his phone by his bed, and that there was no reason for me to stay, for them to keep me where he left me, and I should call him so he could come and get me, as the area was dangerous and I would not know how to know my way around there. They never let me out of there because of the lies. When you put those sorts of vicious lies on paper about a person and force them into a mental facility, and there's nothing wrong with them, you do that because you want the facility to give them drugs and drug them up based on the lies that you put on paper. So if I did not have God on my side, I would have taken drugs. I would have become the things that they said on paper, because that was the goal, and the game plan was for me to become those things. It's like the got you game, okay? And that way I would not be able to speak about what they have done, and everybody would have gotten away free. And I'm still trying to get my story out. When I call lawyers to help me, the first thing some of them ask me is, have you suffered any broken bones? And I said, what I have suffered is worse than a broken bone. They said to me, we can only help you if you have suffered broken bones or if you were dead. So what that tells me, that you're only important to some of these lawyers from a monetary standpoint, unless they can capitalize on you while you're in the grave. You're making them money. You don't mean anything to them. And this is why it is so easy for police to carry out these vicious crimes against innocent people, because the police knows that the law was written to protect them, and the flip side of the law was written to dehumanize a person like me. And the police also knows that once they put lies on paper about you, and once other government agencies realize that you're a person of color, they don't even allow you to speak. You don't even have a voice. For example, when I was in the facility and I tried to get a lawyer, he told me not to say anything, not to speak, and I didn't, and I should have speak for myself. I thought he was going to help me. He was of no help, and I have been fighting to get the story out, so somebody can please hear me from my heart. I'm an innocent person. I have no mental problems. I have all of my faculties. I have been taken advantage of. The plot was to take away a beautiful 4,200 square foot house that I paid $750,000 for, and put about over $100,000 worth of upgrade on it, on the foothills above the 210 freeway in Rancho Cucamonga, sitting on a view lot. And because I have no family and I've been very successful and I keep to myself, they wanted what I have and they found a way to take it from me. In fact, the same Chinese woman who kept telling me to get out. Every time I would go to places, and if I don't feel like driving, and if I hired a chauffeur to take me like into Beverly Hills to do a little shopping, as soon as I returned home, she was the first one at my door. Wanted to know where I went. And what was that black limousine or that black SUV about that picked me up? And could she go with me sometimes? So these are people that wanted my life, didn't think as a black woman I should live the way I live. and have what I have with my only daughter that I put through private school and put her through a 4-year university, and I was very successful, and I kept to myself, and there are neighbors that are willing to testify on my behalf, as so many of them have often said, we wish if everyone were like you, Sandra. You're so private and keep to yourself. Some people don't even know me until they see me standing by the mailbox. They didn't even know that someone lived in my home. When people saw me retrieving my mail, they would come up to me and ask me, who are you? And identify themselves. And I says, well, my name is so and so, and I live here. And he says, we thought this house was vacant. We didn't think anyone lived there. We thought it was just a kept home. We saw gardeners and stuff, and we always admired the lawn. But we didn't think anyone lived there. And I said, yes, I live here. Simply because I never lived common. I wasn't a troublemaker. I didn't seek friends. We lived very private and very secluded in our home. I was an easy target for Mexican gang members and federal drug parolees, illegal aliens hiding when Donald Trump was running for president and deportation was high. It's an area where they didn't think immigration would frequent. So that's why they came up there to hide, and they brought in anywhere from 20 to 25 people. When I reached out to the agent for the landlord who rented the house to them, who was Chinese also, and I must mention that she's not just the landlord's agent, she's a friend of the Chinese woman that lives across from my home, who kept telling me to get out, and they wanted me out of my home and keep telling me it was too big for me. When I reached out to her, she told me to stop ringing her phone, and I should know that niggas are extinct. Those were her exact words. When I called her broker, the broker threatened to have me arrested if I ever call back. So what that tells me is that the restraining order was a plot carried out by all of them. That's how they took out a restraining order to use it over my head so they can keep me away from my own home. So every time I'm in my home, they would call the police and they would make up lies. And because the police was on board with them, the police keep threatening to beat me and telling me to leave my own home. So the game plan also was for me to run away from the house. And of course, they wanted if I had walk away from my home and let it go into foreclosure. The Chinese know the game. They would go to the bank and pay cash for the remainder of the mortgage balance, because when a property goes into foreclosure, the bank is not concerned about the present market value of the property. All the bank is concerned about and all they want is what is owed on that mortgage, the mortgage balance, the remainder of the loan. That is all they are concerned with. So anybody who can give them cash, they'll take it. This is why Chinese are able to go around and pay up cash for so many foreclosed properties. Because most people that are out there bidding and don't know how it works, that is the way it works. The bank is only interested in what is owed on the property, not necessarily the current market value. So that tells me the policeman who kidnapped me, who wanted me to tell him to give him the name of my mortgage company and how much do I owe on the house. They were the ones behind it. And it's fraud and hate crime and lies that they carried out to run me away from the home, and it was just me up against a lot of people. And they rented the property next door to me to gang members, thugs, street people, and used them to run me out of the home. So since I wasn't willing to leave it the way they wanted me to, since they kept telling me to get out and I wasn't willing and I kept chasing them off my property, they found a way to run me out of there. And the police did not care to help me because I'm a black woman. They participated and they dehumanized me. And I told them, I said, if I were a dog, you would have arrested those people and they would have gotten jail time. If I were a white woman, I would still be in my home and those thugs would have to be gone. There is so much more to my story. If somebody could please help me, because even as we speak, again, as I've said before, they have my name in computer in that county as having mental problems because they realize that no one has stepped in to take action against them. And it's a game to, if they can find a way to destroy me completely by keeping that lie under my profile, and they're trying to force me to get rid of my God-given abilities and identity and want me to, and they're trying to clothe me with their identity, which is saying that I am crazy, and I'm not. There's a living God in heaven. I have no mental problems, none of everything that they accuse me of. I am an innocent person. But like my sister told them, it's because I have no family here and I am successful and they wanted what I have. And it was a plot carried out. In the end, one of the detectives told the real estate agent who sold the house to the Chinese, he told them, and he also told my sister, he said, she has no mental problems. There's nothing wrong with her. Those tenants are doing some things, and there was no law to stop them. And my sister told him, yes, you could have stopped them. You people could have stopped them, and you chose not to. And I'm here, and nobody has stepped in and taken action. And the very same people who frequent the woman across the street for many years, who are Chinese themselves, they were constantly at her home. They're the ones that are living in my house now. And I'm still fighting for justice. I'm fighting to get help. And I'm begging somebody out there to please help me, hear me, reach out and help me, because they have a plan in place, and that plan is to kidnap me, so no one will ever know the truth. Please help me. I have suffered emotionally in so many ways. They have sprayed so many chemicals on me and on my daughter from over there. One afternoon, again, I came home from Beverly Hills and I went in my backyard to discard of some trash. And they saw me in the backyard, and these homes are very close, and they sprayed something on me through a bedroom window over there, and whatever it was so toxic, it knocked me down on the concrete in my yard, and I felt like my whole body had fire on it, and it was on top of my head that they sprayed it on top of my head. And when I realized that I was in danger and they're spraying me, I tried enough. I tried to get inside of my garage. I struggled to get in there and lock the door, and then I opened the door to my house and dragged myself in the kitchen and locked the door, and then I couldn't move because whatever it was debilitating, and it was burning my head and my mouth. And I blocked out on the floor in my kitchen, and when I woke up it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I had my keys in my hand laying on the tile in my kitchen. And when I called the dispatch woman, she talked to me like I was a dog. and hung up on me because the Hispanic police officers and several of them from the station, because they have told so many lies against me and turned in all kinds of lies, and no one wanted to get to know me and get the truth. All they knew is that I was black. And that's all. That's a strike against me. I wasn't worthwhile listening to. I wasn't worthwhile getting to know. I wasn't worthwhile protecting. So pure lies were fabricated against me, and I was dehumanized and treated worse than dogs. And yes, in this country, dogs takes precedence over people like myself, because they would never allow anyone to treat a dog like that. And it hurts. Even until this day, I have the indentation and the spots on my scalp, and I get a lot of headaches from the chemical that they sprayed on me, and my hair is missing in those areas and refuse to grow back. They have tortured me. They have sprayed things in the yard, and my daughter walked into it, and her legs almost looked like elephants. I had to struggle. Whatever they were using, it almost killed her. They said they were going to rip out her heart. Within 2 months, my daughter was reduced down to 80 pounds from 160 pounds. I almost lost her. If I didn't know God, we wouldn't be here. When people ask me, how do I manage to go on day by day, considering what they have done to me, I only let people know that I knew God before trouble came my way. And because I knew God in advance, that's why I'm still here. The one of the most humiliating and hurtful part of it is for police to assassinate my character, to carry out what they did, and until this day still forcing me to accept the stigma that they put on me. They want me to act like I'm crazy. They registered me as having mental problems, and when I call the station to get a copy of the report, you have these Mexicans who answered the phone because they are aware of what happened, talking down to me and disrespecting me, because even the very tenants told me that I was wasting my time calling police. I should know that all police does is kill niggas and nothing comes out of it. And I let them know. I said, you are right in many ways, because the Mexican police officers that are protecting you, they have one goal, and that is to kill me. I remember many nights as I would call as the chemicals comes inside the house and it was burning us, and we didn't know, we couldn't go outside because they're spraying the house also. And when I would keep calling the police, because the police was the same one who told me to keep calling and don't think I was bothering them, and when I don't call, that's the problem. They said if you don't call, then we don't know what's going on. But as I continued to call, some of the police officers, the Hispanics, they would come out in the neighborhood in unmarked vehicles and telling me what to tell them, where can they find me. And I knew they had one goal, and that goal was to kidnap me. And if they had gotten a hold of me in the dark at nights, I would never live to tell my story. I would have been destroyed a long time ago, and the report would say that I had mental problems and I attacked them and they defend themselves. This is what this world has gone to. So I'm begging somebody, please, please, please. I've reached out to so many lawyers, including those that call themselves civil rights lawyers. I've also contacted black female attorneys, and I've left messages on their voicemail, and I said, even if you don't if you don't specialize in the area that I am addressing, reach out to me, please. Let me tell you what happened and see if you can direct me to a lawyer who can help me. one lawyer who represents celebrities only. Obviously, I can't say it's only, but when I call, it's a well-known female lawyer, and I leave a message and I said, I'm not a celebrity, but I am somebody. Can you please call me so somebody can at least know what happened and help me to get a good lawyer? I'm not a celebrity. I'm not world renowned, so she did not even have the common decency to call me back. I'm not worth it. So this is how these people are. That's why the world is in trouble today. And when I never forget, as I cried out to God in February of last year, I cried out and I wept. And I said, God, you know I'm innocent. I've been taking advantage of. Step in and rescue me. And out of the clear blue, I heard a voice said to me, be still and know that I am God. And it wasn't long after that. It was all over the news about this pandemic taking over. And I'm here to tell people today, God is not through. There is so much wickedness on this earth. And God said he's angry at the wicked every day. Even the police department, I'm very disappointed in them because I've been one who tried to advocate for the right police, the right ones, because I've always said not all police are doing harm, but I have come to realize that even if you try to do what is right, you are seen or perceived as being weak and naive and stupid. And even if you want to be an advocate and to stand up and do what is right, it's color matters. Your color matters. Your color automatically disqualifies you from everything in this country. And it hurts. It really hurts to the point where they're trying to ruin you with lies, trying to force you to take on who they want you to be and to conduct yourself based on how they want you to behave by putting this stigma on you. It's almost like saying, who do you think you are? Living the way you were living. You have no business living like that. And we are going to tear you down and we're going to make sure you never rise again. That is their approach. And that's why they put the stigma on me, and they know that it is fraud, but they don't care, because in their world, along with the Chinese who helped to carry it out, I have no business living the way I live. In fact, the same Chinese woman, her home was raided by the FBI about 7 to 8 months ago. And I'm sure eventually, if somebody helps me, they'll find out that she's linked to what happened to me, because the people who are in my house, they are her friends who said they've always wanted my house for many years. They said we have always wanted that house and we wanted to move in the neighborhood. And it's a lie, because these people have lived in the neighborhood for many years. They have a house less than 5 minutes from where I live. But like the Chinese woman across the street who has many homes, I guess that's what they wanted also. They wanted to have more than one home. And the one that they had that was about 5 minutes away, less than 5 minutes away from where I live, it wasn't the same as my home. It was a much smaller home. My home is almost 4,200 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, and a 4-car garage sitting on a view lot overlooking the city. You can see the airs coming, the airplane coming in and out of Santeria International Airport, unobstructed city and mountain view. And that's the house that they wanted. And they said they've had their eyes on it for many years. And I have seen them at her house from the day she moved into the foreclosure that she bought. I've seen them there. They were her friends. And she wanted to make sure they moved there. And so they carried out fraud and lies and hate crime against me. And I'm struggling. I'm fighting. I'm fighting. Somebody hear me. Somebody don't throw me in the trash. Somebody help me. Please. 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 Don't forget me. Don't ignore me. Don't. Hear me. Help me. I'm human. I'm a child of God. Nothing is wrong with me. I'm not the first person they have done it to, and I'm not the last. I don't even think some people want to come forward and talk about it. Some people might be embarrassed, but I'm strong. I'm strong. And I'm gonna keep fighting the good fight. There's more to the story, but it's so draining when you have to talk about it, and it's hard to talk about it and suppress the tears. It's hard. I'm human. Somebody please help me. Thank you.